So I'm just reading, thank you. I'm just reading Amanda Palmer's book, The Art of Asking. And I'm just reading it from just a couple of little excerpts. I haven't actually read this book in its entirety yet, but I'm working towards it. So here we go. Thank you. Thank you. You may have a memory of when you first, as a child, started connecting the dots to the world. Perhaps outside on a cold spring school field trip, mud on your shoes, mentally straying from the given tasks at hand as you began to find the patterns and connections where you didn't notice them before. You may remember being excited by your discoveries, and maybe you held them up proudly to the other kids, saying, "Did you ever notice this? This looks like this. The shapes on the leaves look like the cracks in this puddle of ice, which look like the veins on the back of my hand, which look like the hairs stuck to the back of her sweater," connecting the dots, then connecting them, and then sharing the connections with those around you. This is how the creative human works: collecting, connecting, and sharing. All artists work in different mediums, but they also differ when it comes to those three departments. Some artists love the act of collecting. We might call this experiencing or emotionally and intellectually processing the world around us, the ingredients, like the puddles of ice, the sweater, that go into the poetic metaphor, or the wider and longer term connection, the time it takes to fall in and out of love, so that you can describe it in a song, or the time it takes a painter to gaze at a landscape before deciding to capture it on canvas, or the nearly 3 years Thoreau needed to live simply on the side of a pond, watching sunrises and sunsets through the seasons before he would give Walden to the world. Some artists devote more time to connecting the dots they've already collected. Think of a sculptor who hammers away for a year on a single statue, a novelist who works 5 years to perfect a story, or a musician who spends a decade composing a single symphony, connecting the dots to attain the perfect piece of art. Thoreau himself needed another 3 years after his time in the cabin to distill and connect his experiences into the most beautiful and direct writing possible. Like most stage performers, I've always been the most passionate about the final phase. That's the sharing. There's a lot of ways to share. Writers share when someone else reads or listens to their words in a book, a blog, or a tweet. Painters share by hanging their work or by sliding the sketchbook to a friend across the coffee table. Stage performers also collect and connect in the form of experiencing, writing, creating, and rehearsing. But there is a different kind of joy in that moment of human to human transmission, from you to the eyes and ears of an audience, whether fireside, at a party, or on the stage in front of thousands. I'm a sharing addict. But no matter the scale or setting, one truth remains: the act of sharing, especially when you're starting out, is fucking difficult. There's always a moment of extreme bravery involved in this question. Will you look? It starts when you're little, back in the field, the veins of the leaf that looked like your hand, and you said it out loud to the kids walking next to you. You may have seen the lights go on in their eyes as you shared your discovery. Whoa, you're right, cool. And felt the first joys of sharing with an audience. Or you may have laughed at your friends and scolded by the teacher who explained patiently, "Today isn't looking for patterns day. This is not the time for that. This is the time to get back in line, to fill in your worksheet, to answer the correct questions." But your urge to connect the dots and share, because that, not the worksheet, is what interested you. The impulse to connect the dots and to share what you've connected is the urge that makes you an artist. If you're using words or symbols to connect the dots, whether you're a professional artist or not, you're an artistic force in this world. When artists work well, they connect people to themselves and they stitch people to one another through this shared experience of discovering a connection that wasn't visible before. Have you ever noticed that this looks like this? And with the same delight that we took the children in seeing face a face in a cloud. Grown-up artists draw the lines between the bigger dots of grown-up life: sex, love, vanity, violence, illness, death. Art pries us open. A violent character in a film reflects us like a dark mirror. The shades of a painting cause us to look up into the sky, seeing new colours. We finally weep for a dead friend when we hear that long-lost song we both loved come up unexpectedly over the radio waves. I never feel more inspired than watching another artist explode their passionate craft into the world. Most of my best songs were written in the wake of seeing other artists bleed their hearts onto the page or the stage. Artists connect the dots. We don't need to interpret the lines between them. We just draw them and then present our connections to the world as a gift to be taken or left. This is the artistic act, and it's done every day by the many people who don't even call themselves artists. Then again, some people are crazy enough to think that they can make a living at it. Here we go. This is the next chapter. I was 22. I just graduated from college and I really, really didn't want to get a job. Don't make, don't get me wrong, I wasn't lazy. I wanted to work, but I had no desire to get a job. Growing up as an uber emotional teenage songwriter and theatre nerd, I faced a bewildering and bottomless chasm between what I wanted to become, a real artist, and how one actually, well, becomed it. Though I worshipped daily at the altar of MTV, I didn't know any famous musicians, so I couldn't ask them how they becomed. I didn't even know any non-famous musicians. All the adults I'd ever encountered, my parents, my friends' parents, all had grown-up jobs. Mysterious, complicated, white-collar jobs, jobs in tall buildings, jobs that involved computers, jobs about which I understood absolutely nothing and in which I had absolutely no interest. When people asked me what I wanted to be when I grow up, I'd lie and try to give them the most impressive answer I could think of: a lawyer, a doctor, an architect, an astronaut, a veterinarian. I liked my cat. I figure I qualified. The truth sounded too stupid. I wanted to be a rock star, not a pop star. A rock star. An artistic one, a cool one, like Prince, like Janis Joplin, like Patti Smith, like the dudes in The Cure, the ones who look like they lived their art. I loved playing the piano. I loved writing songs, and I knew that if I had any choice in the matter, that's the job I wanted. But I had no clue how anybody got such a job or what being a wage earner, earning artist meant in practical terms. I'd barely caught a glimpse of a working artist in his or her natural habitat until I attended my first rock concert at the age of 11 and saw Cyndi Lauper was a real live person. Until that moment, I had been suspicious that Cyndi Lauper, Prince, and Madonna were in fact being convincingly played by actors. Furthermore, the liberal arts education that my parents had generously broken their backs to be able to afford, because they considered it a crucial necessity for its survival in the real world, had done a shocking amount of nothing to prepare me for the cold, hard truth of my chosen career path. Not that college was all impractical theory or wasted time, and I harbour no regrets. I learned how to hand develop my own film in the darkroom. I learned the basics of theatrical lighting design. I studied Chaucer, John Cage, postmodern performance art, post-World War II German experimental filmmakers, and post-apocalyptic beliefs through a variety of world religions and fictional genres. I even learned, not in the classroom, of course, how to construct a potato cannon that would shoot as far as 250 feet, the distance to the rival dorm across the street, using a long piece of PVC piping and a bottle of Aquanet extra hold hairspray and a potato. I also learned over those 4 years that a diet of hummus, cookies, and cereal makes you fat, and it's impossible to tap a keg unless it's been properly chilled, and DJing a college radio show from 3 to 5 in the morning doesn't expand your social circle one iota. And that heroin kills people. But I did not learn how to be a rock star, for that matter, an employable wage earning bohemian. Wesleyan University did not offer any practical courses in that department, and there didn't seem to be anybody hanging around that I could ask. Now I was done. I had the degree. I made my family happy, and after enrolling, panicking, and quickly withdrawing from full-time scholarship to get my master's degree in anything I wanted at Heidelberg University, I'd figured out by that point that academia was making me miserable and drunk. I flew home to Boston from Germany with 2 giant suitcases and no real plan about how to start my real life. I considered my situation. I knew I wanted to be a musician. I knew I wanted a real job. I knew I had to pay for food and a place to live. I took a barista job, rented a room in a dilapidated share house in Somerville, Massachusetts, and I decided I'd be a statue. What a cool book. Can't wait to read the rest.